Hello and welcome to this V Strom video. This content will show you the steps that I took to check the valve clearances on my V Strom 650. The tools are fairly straightforward and all you'll need is some coolant, although it's a good idea to replace your spark plugs and your air filter if you're not sure when they were last replaced. Start off by taking off your seat and the side panels. Pop that out and slide the panel back, and then do the same to the other side. I didn't forget, I just knew them. Now the other side's out, remove the 12mm bolt, the two Phillips head screws either side, and these two Allen keys up the top. Now take these two little plastic trim clips out. To remove the centerpiece here, lift it up a bit, pull it out that way, and then pop it back towards you. And that's that piece disconnected. With that trim off, remove these two bolts. Now you can disconnect the electrical connection underneath the tank, remove the fuel hose and the two breathers, and then lift the tank off. You'll also need to take these three electrical connections off. Looking up from above the front wheel, there's two 12mm bolts which will need to be removed. With these removed, the whole front end of the fairing can be slid sideways and then pulled forwards, being careful of the radiator. With the fairing out of the way, it's time to remove the lower bolt holding the radiator to the motor. Now remove the electrical connector for the fan and for the horn. Now gently remove the lower hose and drain the contents of the radiator. You can then remove the upper hose and the upper bolt holding the radiator to the bike. Now remove the coolant overflow bottle. You'll need to remove one spark plug per cylinder, or both if you're planning to replace them. Now undo the three hex head bolts holding the valve cover on. Gently lift the valve cover up, being careful not to tear the rocker cover gasket. Now remove this cover on the crankshaft and this timing mark cover. On the front cylinder, you'll need to remove at least one spark plug plus the three bolts holding the valve cover on. With a 17mm socket, turn the crankshaft anti-clockwise until the F line lines up with the arrow on the left hand side. Use these markings to help differentiate the intake valves from the exhaust valves. Keeping an eye on the cam lobes, we want them to be pointing upwards. If they're pointing down, like this, you'll need to rotate the crankshaft again, 360 degrees anti-clockwise. Now that the cam lobes are pointing upwards, we can check the valve clearances properly. These are the valve specs for the second generation V Strom 650. The smaller spec should slide straight under. With some repairs to my feeler gauge, we're now ready to try the larger size, which shouldn't fit through. As you can see, the gap is too small for the larger size to fit through, so we'll try right in the middle of the range. Fits perfectly. It slides through but has a nice drag, showing that nothing bigger will fit through. After checking all 4 valves on the front cylinder, rotate your crankshaft 270 degrees anti-clockwise to the R for the rear cylinder. Checking again that your cam lobes are pointing upwards. Provided your rear cylinder is well within spec, you can put your cover back on, being careful to line the gasket up properly. Here we have the torque specs for the valve cover and the spark plugs. I'm going to take this opportunity to replace my spark plugs because I don't know when they were last replaced. If your bike didn't come with the toolkit, which has your spark plug socket in there, you'll need a 16mm spark plug socket. With all 4 plugs replaced, it's time to stick the ignition leads back on, the crankshaft cover and the timing inspection cover. I'm also going to replace my air filter while we have the tank off. I wonder if this is the original filter from the bike. I picked it up at 26,000 kilometers. And a tip for plastic threads, start off with an anti-clockwise rotation and it'll drop into the thread, and then you can tighten it up without starting a new thread in the plastic material. For some reason, this part of the video has reversed on me. Now the overflow bottle can go back on. The overflow hose, the cables routed over the shroud, the fan connection, and the connection for the horn. With both radiator hoses reconnected, we can refit the 10mm bolt at the bottom of the radiator. And now we can fill with some green premix coolant. Don't forget to top up your overflow bottle too. Time for the tank to go back on. There's 2 breather hoses in the top right hand corner there. The main fuel hose, which just pushes back onto the blue clip, and the electrical connection. The 12mm bolt for the tank can go back on, and the front fairing can be remounted. 2 12mm bolts back to the frame. With this bracket oriented in this way, the bolts can be tightened up. Refit the 3 electrical connections in the fairing. And now it's time to check that everything's reconnected properly. If your bike fires up, throw your plastics back on, your seat back on, and go for a ride, knowing that your valves are in spec. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe and drop a comment below. Now get off YouTube and go for a ride.